guys, today I'm going to talk about the power of propaganda. And I want to say ahead of time, I do not mean to be political. It's just that some political issues are great examples of this topic. And this can go from national level all the way down to a personal level. So what is propaganda? Propaganda is basically, if it's just in my words or my terms, propaganda is something that you say or someone says to a lot of people to push a narrative or a story. That's basically it. It's to inspire action, to inspire a way of thinking or a movement. Now there's positive and there's negative propaganda, and I'm going to talk about the negative side, all right? Because the positive side, we already know about that. So I want you guys to beware of the negative kind of propaganda. And so negative propaganda is very dangerous and very deceptive and very powerful. It's very effective, okay? So let me give a few examples, and we're going to go from macro to micro. So one big example is if you watch The Kingmaker. The Kingmaker is a documentary. It's a documentary about the Marcoses, and one of the main stars really, or if not the main star, is Imelda Marcos. And Imelda actually said that, and this is her saying in the documentary, which I suggest you watch. Imelda actually said that truth is not reality. You know, like what's real, what's facts, what's true is not reality. For her, perception is reality. She said it herself, perception is reality. Not truth, not honesty, not facts, not any of those things. So it's not a wonder, we're not supposed to be shocked that they have done what we call historical revisionism. They simply want to change perception because for them, perception is what's real. This is what we call the big lie fallacy. If you say a lie to many people and repeat it many times, and you say it to more people and you repeat it more times, people will begin to believe it. What are some examples of this? I'll give you some examples and then I'll give you some of the facts, okay? So one example, not trying to be political, but again, it's just a good example. On a macro level, the Marcoses, or there's a lie going around that says that the Philippines was in the golden age because of the Marcoses. Now that is not true. The fact is, if you look at the World Bank and you look at the numbers and the data, the Philippines was actually one of the highest in terms of GDP and economy when Marcos entered presidency. When he left the presidency, the Philippines was one of the sick countries of Asia with a very, very bad GDP and economic standing. So you just look at the World Bank, you look at the data, you just look at the facts. In other words, hashtag fact check. I'll give you a few more. Macro evolution. This has been taught in such a way, even if it's called the theory of evolution, it's been taught as if it's factual. When in fact, macroevolution, the belief that fish can turn to humans, is actually not scientific according to a lot of scientists. Microevolution has more weight, macroevolution does not, scientifically. And we can talk about that later on if you want. You can drop in the comments below, what you want to talk about. Another example in church is what you call the tithe. Okay, it's been repeated so many times to so many people in so many ways, the 10%, 10%, 10% tithe. If you look at the Bible and just hashtag fact check, the teaching of the tithe was an Old Testament thing. It is not required for New Testament churches. Okay, another one that you should fact check is when people say you should just forgive no matter what. Just forgive no matter what. Even if they're unrepentant, just forgive. Biblically, that is not in the Bible. That's unbiblical, and it's actually anti-gospel. To just forgive without the person showing any form of repentance is unbiblical and anti-gospel. The gospel requires repentance before forgiveness actually comes. Alright, so these are some examples of propaganda. It's been repeated over and over again at a macro level so that more and more people believe. Now, if you bring that down to the personal level, this can happen in organizations, as well. And when I say organizations, we're talking about your job, maybe your office. If someone says something about someone else in the office and repeats it over and over again. So I'll give you an example. If a colleague said, oh, you know, person A is really bad, 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 to everyone in the office, person A will one day come into the office and he'll wonder why everyone's cold towards him when he's done nothing wrong. He doesn't know that there was a propaganda that was launched against him. So this can happen in your office. This can happen in your family. This can happen in churches. This can happen in non-profit organizations. This can happen in your group of friends, in your barkada. It can happen anywhere. The propaganda is just a fancy term for gossip. I know I just talked about, smear tactics part 1 and then smear tactics part 2. This is probably like a part 3 of sorts, but not really, but it's connected. Okay, so propaganda can be used as a kind of smear tactic. It can be a demolition job. It can be a kind of a machinery or a system for people to get what they want or for people to ruin others. And the intention is never really positive, all right? So negative propaganda is a very malicious thing. It's a very dangerous thing. It's very subtle and it's very effective. So my suggestion to you guys is to be very, very careful. When you hear certain things, the best thing to do is always to fact check. That is one of the safest things you can do. Now, why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this obviously because there's so much propaganda happening. We've got I've been following the Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation, and now I'm following Ezra Miller because I'm invested in the Flash and the Justice League, and there's so much propaganda happening against Zack Snyder, hashtag restore the Snyderverse, things like that. So I'm realizing the power of propaganda. Positive propaganda, I'll give you one example, or maybe I'll give you a few. The Restore the Snyderverse was a movement, and it actually happened. And it's so effective that we actually got the Snyder Cut, and we got the full thing, all the 4 hours of glorious content from Snyder himself, right? I also saw, and again, this is not to be political, okay? But it's just really a good example. Win or lose with Lenny, I'm very, very happy to see people who say, when I wear that pink ribbon, when I have the pink ribbon around me, I feel more and more pressured to be kind, to be nice, to appreciate, to say please, to say thank you. That's not something I've seen in other candidates. I haven't seen this effect by other candidates except for one person. So win or lose, I could honestly say I'm already proud of what she has accomplished. And that is one of the effects of positive propaganda. And it's very effective. Now, as Christians, of course, I know that our motives are vastly, vastly different. We want to live good lives because we want to honor Jesus Christ as Lord, and we want people to see that Jesus truly does inspire change and transformation in each and every one of us. And as real as that is, the effect, the natural effect of the transformation of the gospel is positive propaganda. So you see the power of propaganda, both on the macro and the micro, in national scales and in smaller personal levels. We see the positive effects, we see the negative effects. And so why am I making this video? It's for you to be aware, for you to understand that these tactics do work, or these systems do work very effectively, and yet they can also be very subtle and deceptive if used in a negative way. So that's something you have to see for yourself. You have to experience for yourself. Personally, I've read so many reviews from Rotten Tomatoes that this movie is good. When I watch it, it was really bad. I've also read from Rotten Tomatoes saying this movie is really bad. When I watch it, it was really, really good. So these things, reviews of restaurants, reviews of hotels, things like that. We have to be more discerning. And one of the ways to do that is to fact check, is to investigate for yourself, and to learn and realize things for yourself. I hope this was helpful. I know this was short, very different from all the other rants I've done recently, which are very long, 30 minutes, 20 minutes. But I hope this was helpful to you guys. God bless you.